Welcome to the Business Legends Podcast, where we interview business leaders and entrepreneurs so that you can learn from their mistakes, grow your own inspiration, and pump up your bottom line. I'm the host of the show, Reece and Christian, along with my co-host, CEO of Business Marketing Solutions Group, Christian Webb. Good morning.
Let's flex.
Let's flex. I don't even know what that means, but I'm excited. Never forget that we are accompanied by the greatest videographer on the face of the earth, Mr. David Woodruff with Genesis Film, who we have placed in the corner, basically like Patrick Swayze.
He's in timeout.
Nobody puts David in the corner except for Reece and Christian. Today, our guest is a super special guy coming from New York, Mr. Steve Nazarian, and his business is called The Best Why. Steve, good morning, and tell us what The Best Why is.
Good morning. Happy to be here, guys. The Best Why is a marketing company, but not like you would traditionally think. The name comes from focusing on the best reason why someone should buy the product or service that your company is selling. And that's really rooted in developing actual relationships with your customer.
You're like an interpersonal marketing relationship guru type
Something
thing.
Like that.
Yeah.
But it actually goes beyond customer communications. There's an internal piece as well, sort of along the lines of if there's a guy on an assembly line turning a wrench 40 hours a week, if he knows why what he does matters, he's much more likely to do it well.
Sure.
Or to point out if there's a problem than if he's just getting paid to punch a card and turn a wrench. So
internal motivations and stuff like that.
Yeah. So making sure that not only do companies understand sort of all the way back to the beginning why they came into existence and why they matter to their customers, but also their employees understand why the work they does matters as well.
It's such a tremendous field, and the thing that I love about having other people that are in the marketing realm on our show is that there's so many different avenues, and they're all important. You know, we had a guest. God, what was his name? Charlotte Cycleboat dude.
He's gonna hate us for not.
I know. Rob Bennett. Yes,
yep.
Rob Bennett. Thank you, David. See, that's why we have David here. He's our little scribe. Rob had this quote. We're going to see him on Saturday. He's literally going to kill us, by the way. We're not going to air this until after Saturday, just so you know. But anyways,
like a good
I just couldn't remember his name, whatever. But he had this quote, and he's like, tell me what you guys think of this quote. It's the first thing he said to us. He says, advertising is the price of making your business unremarkable. and we were like, that's an excellent point. And then, of course, me being my argumentative self, I was like, well, in that case, with the blinders on, if I say, go get me a soda, what's the first soda that you're going to think about? And of course, he said Coca-Cola. And I said, well, you know why? He says, no. I said, because they have the most consistent brand that spent the most advertising dollars. So suck it, nerd. but no, I mean,
But I bet when they came out, they were extremely remarkable.
They were. They actually had cocaine in it a little bit too, from what I understand. Super extra remarkable or something, I guess.
But also illegal. Don't do it, kids.
Yeah, don't open any of those 1898 bottles of Coca-Cola.
No, they're probably worth more unopened.
Yeah. Sure. I wonder if they even exist anymore.
Maybe.
If somebody out there has a can of Coca-Cola older than me, bring it.
Probably be a bottle than a can.
Yeah.
I'm thinking. Just thinking.
Just thinking out loud over here.
You know what? But that is definitely a 31-year-old question.
That is a 31-year-old question for sure. Like oh my God. Let's switch back to things that are important. So
sure.
Steve, what do you think of that quote? Advertising is the price your business pays for being unremarkable.
Well, I think it probably falls into the larger problem of decisions, direction, and messages being done sort of by consensus and sort of appealing to the least common denominator. Every year, I'm not a big sports guy. Okay, I like the Red Sox, so I'm having a tough year.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm not really.
Go Braves.
Yeah, I'm not a big football fan. Though I do always have enjoyed the ads during the Super Bowl.
Right.
Sure. So everybody leaves the room when the game is off, and I'm like digging in and watching the ads.
Yeah.
And the last several years, they've been pretty dull because nobody's taken any chances.
You're totally right about that.
Everybody's
100%.
like, okay, well, we could do this, but it's a little edgy. A company I worked for several years ago was video editing production animation company, and we entered the Doritos ad competition.
Oh, wow.
For
that would have been so much fun.
For the Super Bowl. It was a ton of fun. And, we had, millions of dollars worth of equipment and good people and so on.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't have a David.
We did not have David. That's why you didn't get the
probably. But we ended up. It was the year that the one with the guy on the airplane who was trying to get the hot chick to sit next to him.
Oh, right.
And then she ended up having a baby on her chest.
Yeah.
Right. That's the guy who won, and he actually deserved to win.
That was great. That was I remember that commercial. That was a great one.
Right.
Yep.
So you remembered it.
Yep.
But the ad we did was there was this guy named Dick, and he was in an office, and he was a namesake. Let's just say that. Okay.
Yeah.
And our whole thing was don't be a dick.
Yeah. Don't be Dick.
Oh,
right.
Right. And
it's probably pushing the threshold a little bit, you know. But it's also the Super Bowl.
Right. And we figured if we're gonna do it
big.
Let's take a shot.
Yeah.
Right. Because the chances of even if our stuff is as good as everybody else's, just on numbers alone, the odds are not in our favor.
We've been discussing this in-house quite a bit lately because it's kind of interesting. You may have detected this when you had coffee with us before this podcast, but in our company, he's kind of the yes man. He says yes to everything, even if he has no idea what he's getting me into. And I'm kind of the no man. I'm kind of the guy where I like to actually think about things objectively and things like that. And I end up saying no a lot more often than I say yes. And I try to defeat that in all earnestness.
Yeah, and usually I have to beat it out of them because really what happens is no one in this world, I don't care who you are, goes to their first giant project and says, "Man, I've done this before."
Yeah.
Not a single soul in the entire world.
Nope. And most of the big successes I've had in my career have been when I really didn't know what I was doing, or we were doing something for the first time. I was involved in one of the very first live video streaming setups outside of what Apple was doing, and what it used to be Apple and Victoria's Secret were the two that did live video. And I was working. My title was technical producer, but I worked for a company that did meeting and event production, mostly for associations and societies, so big meetings.
Okay.
And I forget which association it was, but they're like, we want to live stream our keynote to all of our members who can't be in, I think it was in Houston. Mm-hmm. So.
What year was this, just out of curiosity?
This would have been 99.
Okay, wow. So, I mean.
So this would have been a big deal.
Yeah, huge deal.
Yeah.
Huge deal.
Now it would have been a button.
Cameras, but cameras would have been filmed back then too, right? Or
no, it was standard def video, and so they were feeding me a video feed backstage. I had this quad-core computer.
David's laughing over there because I have no idea what the hell I'm
probably
talking
cost
about,
the computer that I lugged all the way to Houston probably cost $10,000.
Wow, and it was probably just a gigantic.
Well, it was a big desktop thing. Yeah, and big monitor, and had all special video boards in it and so on.
Checked it for bombs. It was so big.
Yeah.
We found a service that could do the broadcast.
Yeah.
And I remember calling from wherever I was laid over on the way to Houston. I remember it was a Sunday night, calling the service provider, and the guy answered the phone.
Wow.
And he's like, "Yeah, just call me tomorrow when you have your IP address at the convention center." And it shouldn't have worked.
Yeah, but it did.
Totally should not have worked.
Yeah.
And what's funny is that when it was all over, I got all the statistics on it, and like, wow, 78 people watched it.
Yeah.
And then and then I got back to the office, and I'm like, how many people here watched it? And like 30.
Yeah.
So really only about 40 people watched it. And what it boiled down to at the time was the only people who cared enough to see the keynote live came, and nobody else cared to see it live. They're happy to watch it later. But thinking back, at the same company, we did a paid live webcast of it was for Doctors Association, and so we had all these doctors, 3 people in 3 different locations, 150 people paid like $200 to watch this live presentation.
Oh, wow!
And I was controlling it all, and from this one little laptop, and the service provider. I was like, you guys can handle 250 people. No problem. He goes, but be very careful. You as the person running it, if you disconnect from the system, everybody gets kicked off.
Oh, no pressure.
So I have all the slides.
I'm going to chalk this up as obvious foreshadowing, by the way.
And I'm like, click, and we'd rehearsed it. And so I had the script, and I knew when the guy says, okay, yes, and and then I remove the iliac septum or something or other. I'm like, click.
Yeah.
And I click. 404 error comes up on my screen, and my stomach just like drops.
Oh yeah,
and
worst.
I just hit back.
Yeah,
reconnected, and we continued on.
But it was okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but for a second I thought this was all over. Thousands of dollars at play. So then it's all over.
Sweating bullets.
Shows shut things down. We all high five each other. It's great, and. The service provider calls me. He's like, I can't believe it. You had 230 people on. We didn't think it would work.
Even though he said it's no problem.
Right, right. Oh yeah, exactly. So you were saying, oh yeah, he just says yes, and you figure it out later.
Right.
That guy said yes,
and
was thrilled that his system was more scalable than he thought it was.
Yeah.
So I get
hilarious.
it. I get it, and I think sort of coming back to the original question. People are so scared, and gosh, the sort of political climate we're in now only makes it worse.
For sure.
They're so scared of taking a chance and being wrong that they end up sort of shooting up the middle, and they don't really effectively do anything.
You get canceled for anything these days now.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's there's this. We were actually discussing this right before Panera.
It's like voting present.
Yeah.
In the legislature. That's all people are doing.
Exactly. It's kind of a shame because I was telling him about how I have my political beliefs, and honestly everybody has some belief about these things, and yet I don't talk about them in public or outside of private conversations because of the concern or worry that I might offend somebody by my beliefs or whatever else. And at the end of the day, they're my beliefs. Right. You know what I'm saying? And
you shouldn't have to lose a contract because
I shouldn't have to. Right, and you shouldn't have to force yourself to censor yourself based on something that you actually believe in, type of thing.
Yeah, I saw a commercial the other day that was exactly this, right? Like it was, but this was actually well done. Like they did what they were trying to do. It was like a crispy commercial. I'm not gonna say the whole name, I guess, just in case I get in trouble or something. But basically, they did.
Are we talking Krispy Kreme or Rice Krispies type?
Rice Krispies. Okay. Screw it, Rice Krispies. But basically, they
I was
did.
Gonna say we're halfway there, cuz.
Yeah. They basically did a commercial where they had all these girls in a room doing ballet. They're practicing, and then there's this one feminine-looking boy, and the commercial is saying, "Let your kid express his sexuality and let him have a snack to keep him going on the floor." But it was a commercial about ballet and one boy surrounded by females. Keep your energy.
Have a Rice Krispie treat.
Yeah. I was like,
that's interesting messaging.
I was like, what? But think about it. They're not getting canceled.
Yeah.
No way with that messaging, right?
For sure.
And also, it's almost under the table enough to where people wouldn't notice it.
Yeah.
But it was smooth. What they were trying to do was real smooth.
Yeah. It's really interesting when you, especially when you're talking about LGBTQ rights and stuff.
Also,
like
it's a terrible snack for working out. Just so we're clear.
Yeah. Like I couldn't imagine doing a Rice Krispie treat in the middle of whatever, like a vomit.
Anything.
No. That's sitting around the couch rubbing your belly kind of.
Yeah.
Like CrossFit, grab water, Rice Krispie.
Oh, yeah. Oh, dude, that's just anyway. But it's interesting how I feel like some of these companies. I always think about Chick-fil-A because Chick-fil-A's CEO several years ago came out and said marriage should be between a man and a woman, and that was his belief, And then you had this attempt at cancel culture, and
they doubled it.
And then Chick-fil-A blew up because a lot of the conservative folks were like, "Oh, we're gonna go get all that anti-gay chicken or whatever," the next day. And legitimately, like the attempt to boycott backfired.
Yeah.
In common culture, we see. I don't know if you guys saw in the news the Goya company. Goya company is a Hispanic-owned company, and they make like spices and different bean products. And
maybe
stuff like
not
that.
a little bit of Mexican mafia type style stuff up in there.
Yeah, for sure. But the CEO was like, we're lucky to have Donald Trump. That's all he said. We're lucky to have Donald Trump. He's great.
We need a builder. That's what he said.
Yeah, he's a builder, right? And then next thing you know, there's this huge attempt at boycott. And by the way, I mean, that backfired so much they're limiting the amount of Goya products you can buy in the store. There's literally signs all over the place. I mean, in the South at least, where they say, limit 2 products per customer or whatever else type of thing.
Yeah, it's almost like they're selling Clorox wipes.
Yeah.
Toilet paper.
That's my biggest fear of 2020 is we'll come out of here and we won't be able to have toilet paper and Clorox wipes anymore.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
You ever wanted to open a company, a toilet paper company, a sanitation company would probably be 2 big ones.
Yeah.
Well, yesterday, the Amazon stuff sort of comes in waves, right? And so yesterday was a big convergence day of Amazon. There were like 7 boxes on my front stoop, and I got kids heading off to college.
Did you hashtag drink and prime? Don't lie.
Nah, I just got 6 people on my house, and I got a nephew who goes to Wake Forest, but he lives in Massachusetts, so he's sending stuff to our house because he flies into Charlotte. So it's stacking up.
Yeah.
And I came inside and I said to my wife, I said, how they say that the only people who made money in the gold rush were the guys selling picks and shovels? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I said, wish I'd gotten into the corrugated cardboard business a couple years ago.
Yeah, no kidding.
I literally have more boxes than I know what to do with in the space of 4 minutes. They show up at my house, and as soon as they're open, the purpose is done, and out it goes into recycling. It
Yeah.
doesn't go back and get reused again.
Yeah, I
It's
never
just
knew that was
burned.
a business. I never knew it was a business, but like
Oh,
years
it's a
ago, I
business.
dated this girl for like just a couple weeks. Her dad making like $500,000-$600,000 a year,
Box
making
salesman.
boxes, and I was like, what?
Oh, I remember that. I don't remember the girl, but I remember that.
Yeah, Jordan.
Oh, right.
But basically, she was literally, her dad was making boxes, living in a 12,000 square foot home, beautiful floors.
But he was
spiral stairs.
I remember the story. He was making them like in the basement.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
his basement floor
It wasn't
box making.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Oh, he didn't have a factory.
No,
he didn't
it was
have
in
a factory.
a basement.
Interesting.
And he would just do this for hours or whatever. And I just because I remember.
Well, I think
why,
it was him and like several people. But
Yeah, but they were just it was just making boxes, man, making boxes.
I was like, this guy has this house making boxes. Okay,
Yeah.
whatever.
And I've been on the purchasing side. I ran sales and marketing for a manufacturing company for several years, and we were. It's fun to say today, but we were in the CD and DVD business, and our biggest vertical was photo. So all the CDs and photo CDs that you buy at CVS and Rite Aid and so on, that's the kind of thing we supplied.
Yeah.
So I bought boxes by the millions because we packaged up
Wow.
these printed
Yeah.
discs in the little beehives with envelopes and so on, and we shipped them out to the distribution centers, and they went to the drugstores. You'd be shocked at how cheap boxes are when you're buying them by the pallet.
Yeah.
And these boxes that were maybe, 8 inches square, 1.3 cents.
Yeah.
You know,
Like nothing.
but you got to buy
$1 million.
$50,000 of them per order. But it's a volume play.
Yeah.
Right. So they're selling me for 1.3. They're building it for 0.2.
Yeah.
You know, trust me, everyone's making money at every level. And I can't imagine the box coming in doing its thing for what short period of time it does it, and then it goes through the recycling process.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it ends up as, but
Like
it
compost
can't
or
be
something.
it can't be efficient.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, that it kind of begs the question of what we're doing to our Earth too. You know,
Oh,
like,
sure.
It begs the question of what does all this stuff become? I don't know.
Well,
You don't
it makes
know.
it super.
You don't
You know,
know.
they
David might know.
They make
David
it
might
super
know.
easy for you to feel good about it, right? The
True.
box comes in, I flatten it, I put it in my giant recycling bin, and I think I've done my thing. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
it's back into the system.
Right.
And then you start reading about how China's no longer buying our recyclable paper, so it's being dumped into the landfill. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the same
Yeah.
concept.
So now I
all
have
over
2
again.
trash cans.
Yeah. Yeah.
pretty
Right.
much.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
You've got the garbage one and the feel good one.
that is.
The feel good one. I tell
feel-
Caleb
This
that
is
all-
for my garbage, and this is for my conscience.
Yeah, for my conscience. You're definitely onto something
Yeah.
with that for sure.
We have
Our,
2 conscience ones.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, we
Two-
do.
oh, I'm not trying to brag or anything.
We had to
but,
pay
you
for
know,
the second
with
one.
all your priming and all your children in and
It's
out of the
mostly
house, you know.
it's mostly the children.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Sure.
you
I don't believe you at all,
call
just for
if
the
you
record.
call Charlotte municipal waste or whatever the garbage people are for
Yeah.
$45, they will bring you a second recycle bin, and then
Yeah.
that one belongs to you. You can take it with you from place to place.
Oh wow. Okay. All right. I got
So
you.
you have to take a recycling bin and put it in a moving truck when you leave.
I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm staying with the house. Trust
Yeah.
me. Once these
You're gonna die in that
4
house.
kids are off the payroll, I'm going someplace where 1 recycle bin will be plenty. So, I'm going to leave this one.
That's your retirement
for the
plan.
next sucker who
Yeah.
buys my giant house.
Yeah, retire. Steve's retirement plan is 1 recycling bin.
That's right.
That's the whole thing. He's
full of mostly gin bottles, but
Yeah.
that's
Hey.
that's my personal
Yeah.
belief.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey.
Not going to share it.
Yeah, we're not gonna hate on that choice. I'm a whiskey guy myself, by the way, but I can rock with
And
the
I won't
sin.
judge you for that.
Yeah.
So let's get back on topic with your business a little
Let's
bit.
do.
So helping find that why. Do you find it starts at the actual owner itself of large companies, or do you think there's like he doesn't matter in that situation?
Well, and sometimes it's a she.
Yep. I got to cover my boxes.
Yeah, you better.
Hashtag 2020.
It typically comes back to the origin of the company. Okay, whether that has something to do with a founder or a group of people or a concept or an idea, and if they've completely gone in a different direction from how they started out, like how Wells Fargo started out, ferrying money in stagecoaches, and now they're a giant ass bank.
Yeah.
That obviously stagecoaches have very little to do with their messaging now.
Do you find that people make up origins?
I find that if you dig deep enough, you find the truth.
I was going to say, because like our actual origins, I started a sales company 4.5 years ago almost, and 6 months later or a little over a year later, like we were having drinks on an airplane back from Vegas, and I was like, hey, you want to be business partners? And we'll start marketing, and that's how our company started. And now it's became
true.
something else, right? But that origin
Completely
story, I
true.
don't know if that really...
It's actually on our Facebook.
I don't know if that goes well with like the common...
I think what but see, here's
I think
the
it's a
thing.
great story,
But
personally.
here's the thing: you're taking a legitimate, honest story that most people can honestly relate to. To be honest, I'm a little impressed that you were drinking on the way home from Vegas, because most people are into the Alka-Seltzer at that point, or just holding their
I was trying not to be hungover until I got home.
Right.
Yeah, hair of dogs.
Right.
Hair of dogs.
Okay. But once you wheels up, that's no longer staying in Vegas. So just anyway.
True.
I'm always in a Vegas state of mind.
But you've got this. I think that's a great origin story, right? Okay. Because it's two guys who are in a totally honest and a relaxed state of mind, who have, and let's be honest, if we go party for a weekend, we have moments of clarity.
Oh, that's true.
Right? Yeah. And so out of that weekend came this, like, dude, you're my guy, and we get each other, and so let's do this. And people can relate to that far more than your whatever polished
like you were there.
Story.
It's like you were there. It's like you were there.
I've been there.
Gin instead of whiskey, though. Got you.
Yeah, well, I remember one of the greatest pieces of airport food I ever got was in Vegas, and it was the breakfast fried rice. The little Chinese guy was doing bacon and scallions, and it was awesome.
Wow.
And it was a pretty solid hangover breakfast for flying home.
My wife makes me breakfast rice all the time. It's delicious.
Nice.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, you got to get back to how it came to be, and you need to be honest about it, and you need to see how that's driven where you are today. Maybe the origin story isn't super important to what you're trying to do today, but at the end of that process, you have to figure out why you matter, and why you matter to your customers or to your audience or whatever it is. And if why you believe you matter and why they believe you matter doesn't line up, you're going to be fighting it the whole time. Mm-hmm. Those two things need to be the same. Mm-hmm. So if your perception of who you are and their perception of who you are two different things, you got to take some time to get those things aligned. And then, as I said earlier, you got to make sure your employees are on board as well, because they are your biggest fans, your biggest ambassadors, your biggest supporters. And let's be honest, and I say this over and over again, people are the worst part of any business. Mm-hmm. People are the worst. My sister is a high school English teacher and has been for almost 25 years. And pretty much her ongoing mantra is people are the worst, people are the worst, people are the worst. And they are. Managing people.
She seems very optimistic.
She actually is. But she's got a coffee mug that says, this coffee tastes like you should shut up until I finish it.
You need to get that from me. Like, if you could find that.
But we were talking this morning about how you're not a morning person.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're a bearded version of my sister.
Yeah.
God. Anyway,
I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah.
I'll choose to take that as a compliment.
As should she. But if hiring people is difficult, even in this climate we have right now, where there are more candidates, 10 times the candidates than there are opportunities, slogging through those candidates to find the right person is difficult. And if you have a culture where people are excited about where they work, excited about what they do, you'll never have to seek out employees. People will be lined up around the block. Or when there's an opportunity in your company, every one of your employees adjacent to that opportunity is going to know 6 people that they can bring in. Yeah. So, in addition to what we were talking about earlier about brand loyalty and people buying certain things and being loyal to certain brands because it's just what works for them. Mm-hmm. By the same token, it's important for you as a business owner or a manager or a leader in your business to have a pretty good idea what your employees will say when people ask, where do you work and what do you do? Mm-hmm. Because if they're embarrassed about where they work or they're unclear about what they do, and it isn't so much what they do, but again, as I said earlier, why what they do matters.
Right. Then,
instead of just answering the question, they are all of a sudden creating a demand for people to work where they work. Mm-hmm. My youngest, so I got 4 kids. I've got a college junior, a college sophomore, a college freshman, and a high school junior. And my high school junior works at the Ben & Jerry's over in Foxcroft. Now, on the surface, that seems like the ultimate teenage job, right?
For sure.
It's happy.
If you don't care about your weight.
You get to wear tie-dye.
Yeah.
It's a mile from our house, so, it's super convenient. And everybody wants to work there. Mm-hmm. And so, he's got friends from school, and they're like, can you give me a job at Ben & Jerry's?
Right.
And he actually does enjoy the job, and he makes great money, and, it's pretty low pressure. It's really hard to mess up ice cream. Even the worst ice cream customer isn't that bad.
Right, sure.
And then they're gone pretty quickly, so even a bad encounter doesn't last that long.
Even if it melts in their fingers, they're gone in 5 minutes.
And So whenever they need to hire, they've got a stack of resumes a mile high, and for the most part, they are people who their current employees already know.
Yeah.
They never place an ad, ever.
Yeah, go figure. I like to talk about, and I've talked on the show quite a bit about corporate culture, and it's kind of like you're birthing something. You're birthing something based on the origins of your beliefs, right? And you're birthing something. One of the things, actually, when we sat down and we discussed, what type of behavior that we expect out of our employees. Like, I don't give a shit if they cuss. Like, I just don't. Like, it just modern day, I cuss all the time. Not like I'm a sailor or anything. But, I mean, it's like, as long as they're respectful when they're dealing with people, if they're in the office and they're talking about, some crazy stuff they did, I don't care. In fact, I encourage them to be themselves. It's who they are, Yeah. One of the other things about, from a culture perspective, is I think that it's personally, and Christian probably agrees with me on this, even though I don't think we've ever had this conversation. But personally, I care about the quality of work much more than the rigid guidelines of the work. And so, for example, we have an employee that he's in and out of school, and he's finishing up with school and everything. And sometimes instead of working like 9 to 5, he'll work like 8 to 3 and then 5 to 7. And I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't bother me at all. Like, he's getting it done. He does a great job with it.
I feel like some people open a business for the control aspect.
No doubt.
But that's not our goal. Like,
No doubt.
I'd say if I could break our whole culture down, it would definitely be casual.
Yeah.
It's casual clothes, casual timing, casual everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think giving people, and this is probably not an appropriate thing to say in 20, but giving enough people enough rope to hang themselves.
Yeah.
Is, I mean, and I've seen, once you have kids, if you've ever been in management, you realize that management and parenting are pretty much the same thing.
Oh.
You're given the responsibility of guiding people in a direction to accomplish a task. Now, when it comes to my kids, I'm guiding them in the direction of becoming decent human beings and going out into the world and, doing okay. In the case of employees, you're giving them enough responsibility to do the right thing. You don't want to micromanage everybody.
No.
It's just, why would you hire people if you wanted to do their work? So
Right.
There was one place where I had about a dozen programmers and the like under me. And I said, look, I need you to put in 40 hours. I need you to get your work done. I also know you've got families, dentist appointments, errands to run at lunchtime. I said, so if you touch clients, be available for your clients when they're going to, whether they're in our time zone, another time zone, be available for your clients and get your work done. And other than that, I'm not going to be on your ass about when you're coming in and when you're leaving.
Yeah.
But if I notice over 4 or 5 days you're not getting your work done, or clients are complaining you're not available, we have a problem. So those are your primary responsibilities, and that worked well. But then another place, I think it's funny how English major ends up responsible for programmers. The second time it happened,
Right.
It was a situation where I came in as vice president of delivery for a educational software company, and not long after I started, my technology director quit. So I had this gap.
Yeah.
And I
You're doing 2 jobs at once.
knew the guy I
type of
wanted
thing.
to hire, but
Sure.
he was 6 weeks out.
Yeah.
So for a couple of months, I was responsible for all the programmers, even though I was supposed to be at least arm's length away from them. And they would come into my office with problems. And because I'm not a programmer, I mean, I speak programmer,
Right.
but because I don't speak the details of what their problem is, I always kept one of my whiteboards completely clean.
Yeah.
And they would come in and I said, okay, explain it to me like I'm 5 years old.
Yeah.
Explain the problem to me. And they would dumb it down in a way that,
Okay, Steve. So
there's this thing, it's called code.
Yeah.
No. And so they would, but what an interesting thing happened is, and it was always at least 2 or 3 people, as they were diagramming and explaining the problem, they would start to see solutions.
yeah,
to
they'd
it.
see their own solution.
So I was just solution catalyst guy, right? I basically said, stop yelling at each other and have a controlled conversation.
All they needed was a whiteboard.
Eventually,
Yeah. And you
they
smack 'em all.
Somebody to present to.
They
Yeah,
stopped
right.
coming to me with questions, and they started coming into me with competing solutions.
Oh, that's a
Right.
good problem to have.
Yeah, they would come in and say, hey, we have this problem, and Joe says this, and Mary says that, and we want you to tell us what's the best approach. Again,
Explain to me like you're 5 years old.
right?
Right.
Come back to kindergarten whiteboard.
Yeah.
But these were young employees. We had
Ambitious,
a
I
great
imagine.
relationship with Rochester Institute of Technology, and half of our programmers had been co-ops with us
Mm-hmm.
for at least a semester before coming to work for us. And so they've been told by their parents and their professors for the last 8 years that they're super smart and can do anything.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But at the same time, they understand, and if you've ever worked with programmers, they want to do the most elegant thing possible, and they have no regard for the business side of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's great. And I love how you can process that routine 1/10 of a second faster, but it's way too complicated for what the client actually wants, and they're the ones paying your salary. So,
right.
But
you're so right about that.
To give them that autonomy to feel like they're solving the problems, and then to be able to shepherd the younger people who are just coming in and seeing that that's how that process works. It really made a huge difference in the quality of their work, and they got a real sense for when they could solve the problems themselves, or when they needed to come talk to somebody else about whether or not the decisions they were making were the right ones for the business.
Yeah.
So
it can be very challenging from a management perspective. I mean, on one hand, you're absolutely right, and I've struggled with this. He knows I've struggled with this in our business, in that I always have the big man syndrome, where I feel like I can do the job the best, and so sometimes I'm like, scoot over, I can do this type of thing. And I've slowly learned through lots and lots of trial and error that can I do that? Sure, but that's not what is going to be able to amplify our business. Being able to put a task on somebody and then trusting them to do it correctly or well.
Well, and even more than that, for them to bring their perspective to it that isn't yours.
Right.
None of us is as smart as all of us.
Yeah.
I told you guys earlier, I started out my career in audio electronics, and we manufactured amplifiers.
This must look familiar, by the way.
Yeah, it's a little small.
Yeah.
And we were all super high-end stuff.
Sure.
And then as that market became saturated, we're like, we got to go down market because there's customers to capture there.
Yeah.
And it would be sort of like Rolls-Royce saying they're making a $20,000 subcompact.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
We had to. So all of our product up to that point was all numbers. Professional Series 8001.
Right.
And like, we think we maybe need this low-end stuff to have a name.
Yeah.
And so we're all looking at each other, and the audio business, at least in that realm, was very much like the car business, where the numbers on the product sort of describes the power on the inside.
Yeah.
And we were basically heading into the garage band and DJ market, where we'd never been before. And we're like, we kind of need to have a little more flash. And so the marketing department are all staring at each other, and all we know are numbers.
Yeah.
So I said, well, why don't we ask everybody? We have 400 people in the company, and 300 of them were in the factory.
Yeah.
I said, let's have a contest.
Yeah.
Let's do up a little creative brief, a little half pager explaining what we're doing, because these guys are going to build these things.
Yeah.
And let's ask the people
what
in the factory. Let's say there's going to be, and I think it was like a $50 Olive Garden gift card.
Something simple.
Right. Everybody loves breadsticks. And probably the most entertaining 90 minutes of my entire career.
Oh, wow.
Was the day we went through all these submissions.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And just listen to what they had to say. And
all of our products.
What'd you end up with? What was the?
Well, we actually ended up with letters and numbers.
Oh, okay.
But
at the end of the day, the bosses got their way.
Well, except
too.
there was actually some rationale behind it.
Yeah.
But the product we used to make was all black with white lettering, and the majority of our factory workers were Spanish speaking.
Okay.
Think what you want if that was in northern New Jersey in the 90s, but we were manufacturing electronics in the United States of America, and most of our competition was overseas, so that was a good thing. And I think the funniest one was El Diablo Negro.
Oh, God.
It's like, these amplifiers should be called the Black Devil. I'm like, yeah, probably not.
Probably not. But I like where your head's at.
Yeah, yeah.
Probably completely innocent comment, too.
Yeah. Oh,
well,
yeah.
And we gave them the opportunity to explain it. And they're like, it is powerful. Like,
yeah.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me.
They will play death metal with it. Like, okay, maybe.
Well, it's
probably. Yeah, probably not great for the church market, but
could be.
We'll
we don't
see.
know.
Depends on the church.
Right.
So, yeah,
that's too much.
I think all of these things that we're talking about are in fact, tied together, and at the end of the day comes down to purpose.
Yeah.
Like, why does your company exist, and why should anybody care and hand their money over to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you believe in why you exist, and the thing you're creating, whether it's a product or a service or some combination of the two, there's actually a market for it, I think about a guy like Dean Kamen, who spent years and years and years coming up with the Segway, and all these Silicon Valley genius guys invested all this money, and they're like, this is going to, even Steve Jobs looked at the Segway as like, this is going to change the world. And they could not have been more wrong.
Yeah.
Nobody was paying $5,000 for a self-balancing scooter.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for a scooter that, you could buy a $10.
And now it's this kind of little niche thing now.
Yeah.
And
see mall cops.
Segway tours.
right,
Yeah,
exactly.
right.
And, but, they thought it was going to be this great thing. And all these super smart people all thought it was the greatest thing ever. And then, on the flip side, Nintendo comes out with the Wii because they couldn't compete with Sony and Microsoft, and they're like, we'll just do something a little different. And by the way, it'll be cheap. It'll be $150, and that thing blew up.
Yeah.
So if you could read the market, we'd all be millionaires.
For sure.
Right. So you can't. But if there is a market for the thing you do, and you believe in it, and the people you work with, whether they're employees or contractors or suppliers, they believe in it.
You win.
You win.
Well, Steve, thank you so much for being our wonderful guest this morning.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Let's say that somebody wants to get a hold of you so that you can help them with their communication chain. Or
super easy.
Yep.
Thebestwhy.com.
Thebestwhy.com.
WHY.
That's as simple as it gets, pretty much. We always like to sign off with a funny question. I think I got a good one today.
All right.
But I'll let Christian put the stamp of approval before we officially ask. But you know that we're two marketing guys that we literally came up with our business plan on a napkin on a flight to Vegas.
Right.
So what would you say if you were gonna create a mission statement for Business Marketing Solutions Group? What would it be?
Well, I like this question because he's getting free work out of you.
Yeah.
And
come to our podcast, Steve.
That's perfect.
It'll be fun.
Free.
I swear.
Yeah. Exclamation point, question mark.
Let me think quickly.
Yeah.
It's kind of like your improv class,
exactly.
right?
Yes,
and
and.
then
Yes, and.
Yes, and. Let's see. Two dudes on a flight home from Vegas. They got this.
I like it. I mean,
And the subtext could be, they're done with bad decisions. Or they're out of bad decisions.
They're out of bad decisions, so
they got nothing left but good decisions for you.
Yeah. They you can trust them with all of your marketing. And
They're done. We're fresh out of bad decisions.
Fresh out of bad. Two dudes on a plane to Vegas. They got this. That's perfect.
Yeah.
On that note, Steve, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.